안 들려서.
Welcome back, everyone, to MSI, where I'm standing by with Peanut after Kingzone just beat EVOS Esports. Now, Peanut, it's very difficult to play a Vietnamese team in EVOS because they're always very, very aggressive, and I think that also showed in your game. Can you tell me what it was like to play versus them?
지금 베트남 팀이랑 경기를 했는데 베트남 팀 항상 공격적인 플레이를 많이 하는데 어떠셨나요? 같이 경기하니까.
저희가 그러니까 너무 공격적이라서 저희가 너무 정신이 없었고요. 일단 저희가 푸나틱 경기를 약간 지고 온 상태라 더욱더 없었던 것 같고 오늘 실수가 너무 많아서 이제 좀 가서 고쳐 많이 다듬어 봐야 될 것 같아요. 네.
Yeah, so indeed they were really aggressive, too much. So we were caught confused, we were lost, and we lost against Fnatic too. So actually we were really confused. We had so many mistakes today. So we'll have to work on this for the next games.
The game versus Fnatic was the first one you lost in the tournament. Obviously, they won in front of the European fans, so the European fans were very happy, but it must have been rough for you guys. What did you kind of think went wrong in that game, and what are you working on?
오늘 첫 경기를 푸나틱이랑 졌는데 사실 여기가 유럽 홈에서 푸나틱 경기를 해서 팬도 많이 좀 이렇게 그런 게 있었는데 어떠셨나요? 경기 후에.
확실히 지고 나니까 이제 선수들이 팬분들이 와서 와 이렇게 환호성하는 게 다르더라고요. 이게 그 소리 차이가 나는데 이제 저희가 세팅 장비를 빼는데 그 장면을 저희 앞에서 다 봤는데 마음이 아팠고 약간 분하기도 해서 다음 푸나틱전은 또 꼭 복수하고 싶다는 마음도 더 생겼어요. 네.
So yes, indeed, this is a home place of Fnatic. And after the game, while we were taking our stuff away, I saw the fans interacting with the players, Fnatic players, and I was like, yeah, it's different. Like, for the next game, I want to win against them.
Definitely, but you guys also have a lot of fans here, and you are already an MSI champion. You won last year with SKT in Brazil. Do you think you have a responsibility to be the leader to help Kingzone to win the trophy here in Europe?
사실 유럽에 뭐 킹존 팬이 많고 또 특히 피넛 선수는 작년에 MSI에서 승리를 하셨잖아요. 그래서 약간 이번에 그런 부담감 있나요? 킹존은 약간 MSI 우승으로 이끌어야 된다는 그런 부담감이 있으신지?
뭐 부담감이라면 그냥 이제 만약 우승을 했을 때 그때 당시 이제 우승을 하면 이제 사람들의 평가가 피넛은 또 MS를 2년 연속 우승을 했네 그렇게 평가가 될 거니까 뭐 부담감보다는 제가 그냥 좀 따내고 싶은 거지 뭐 부담감 따위는 아직은 없는 것 같아요. 네.
Actually, there's not such pressure. I think like if I win again, people are like, oh, Peanut won twice the MSI. That's great, but there's no such pressure.
Okay, not a lot of pressure, but you guys have just won another game, so congratulations and 감사합니다. Thank you for the interview.
Much shocked. Peanut not necessarily feeling the pressure of needing to defend his title as they move to 3-1 on the day. And before we turn our attention to Game 5, I do want to recognize the craziness that we just saw take place out there on that stage. EVOS putting up a huge fight against Kingzone.
And Vietnam just making a case that they are here to stay on a main stage at international tournaments. So they are not just a one-hit wonder with the Gigabyte Marines, but now EVOS making a step, having a competitive game against Kingzone.
And while Kingzone were able to win, it didn't really answer all the questions we had. They were outfought by Fnatic. The level 1 there was the big story. This was a really bloody game. It wasn't a controlled game. They weren't able to play a typical Kingzone win, and that means they probably leave the stage still a little bit unsure of where they lie coming into hard games tomorrow.
That said, they pick up the necessary win to move to 3-1, keep themselves in prime position to exit the group stage in solid position. That leaves us here with Game 5, which is going to pit the Flash Wolves taking on RNG. The LMS representatives here are undefeated still at MSI and looking to end the day solidly in first place at 4-0.
And maybe just some of my colors talking, but I feel like this is the true test for the Flash Wolves right now. Can they take down RNG? And I feel like we're on a crash course looking at this bottom lane for a very exciting game.
All right, but Jad, this is the test for them. The first of 2 tests for the LMS squad here. But when we look historically at the way that these regions have interacted at MSI, it doesn't look too good.
Yeah, we see it here though. Betty has been stepping up. They've been team fighting very well. But yes, the all-time record between the LMS and the LPL at MSI is 8-0 in favor of the LPL. So if the LMS did win this one, it would be historic. No cars to remember for Flash Wolves. They still haven't played the LPL or the LCK so far in this tournament. So yes, it is impressive they are 3-0, but very important they can try and turn the tides on this history and jump out to be in full control of first place.
Looking for that first win historically here at MSI against the LPL. Now I want to talk about the players who might have a big hand in earning that victory. You mentioned Betty and him showing up so far in this tournament. But again, he's going up against Uzi. We saw what he did on day one in terms of CS differentials, the amount of damage pumped out and carrying RNG over Fnatic.
I mean, Uzi has just been bench pressing people all day. This guy is a massive carry. His lane phase is entirely dominant. He contests every single CS. He makes you work for those lane phases, but he doesn't have the strongest team fighting comparatively to the other ADCs at the tournament.
Now, the numbers here for Betty are very strong. The KD obviously massive, but he's facing Uzi and Ming, and then going straight into Prey and Gorilla tomorrow. So he's going to face really the toughest opposition he will. If he can keep those CSD numbers up, then we actually can talk about how Betty, who historically has been stumbling at these international tournaments, is really here to play.
Yeah, and on top of the CS, look at this game at 30 minutes and see how Uzi will have 400 CS.
Yeah, it's
That's
true.
just,
Right.
yes, I know we've changed the way that CS is calculated this year because blue buff and red buff count for 4, as does Scuttle Crab, so that inflates it a little bit.
And he gets both of them sometimes.
And he gets both of them sometimes, but the fact that he's so consistently at 400 CS at 30 minutes is just uncharted territory for CS per minute.
And it's really important to recognize how RNG are able to funnel so many assets of gold onto Uzi. If you constantly watch him, it's Mlxg and it's Ming that are almost acting as guard dogs for Uzi. A lot of the times, Letme and Xiaohu, they'll get kicked out into the side lanes, but just watch the jungle and support and how they escort him from lane to lane to lane, so that when it does roll over into 30 minutes, he's like 170 CS over the clock.
Right, so with this conversation in mind, we took a look at your guys' predictions at the top of the day. We did mention, though, that you'd have the opportunity to swap your last 3 predictions based on the first games of the day. We're going to pull those up as a reminder. All 3 of you choosing...
We did!
Yeah, you swapped the final game of the day. And as much as I want to give you crap for that, I really can't. I can't find any reason why I could knock you for it. But RNG remains the vote for all 3 of you. Explain yourselves as we look at an undefeated Flash Wolves.
This one is based on the history, and I also have to look at the specific matchup in this game. Xiaohu picked it up in game 1 in a big way. I don't think he's going to let Maple run over the lane, and I do think the bottom lane advantage has to go to RNG, even though those stats looked a little bit in favor of Betty.
I'm actually going to say that I was very, very close to changing my opinion on Flash Wolves versus RNG. I thought that RNG in their earlier game today looked really shaky, especially around the mid game, and they're not playing as cleanly to the win conditions of the composition that they're drafting as Flash Wolves are, and they're not drafting very easy compositions to execute. And I think that falls on, yeah, Xiaohu came back in the Vladimir game, but he was making some wonky forced plays with Mlxg. It worked out because of the caliber of their opponent, but I don't think, you know, sitting in a side
He did
bush...
start 2-0.
But
Yeah.
sitting in a side bush for 45 seconds to flash and force a gank mid lane, I don't think that happens against Maple.
And I'm kind of in the middle of both points, and that Xiaohu had a pretty poor yesterday, at least was able to take the mantle today and show his carry pants. I'm sure he might be on support here. I think he can actually neutralize Maple or find an advantage. And then again, can Betty stand up to Uzi and Ming? My first thought is no.
All right, well, this is a big matchup for both teams, and that's going to do it from us. Let's head out to Captain Flowers, Kobe, and Deficio for Flash Wolves versus RNG.
Thank you very much, Dash. This should hopefully be a very exciting matchup between these 2 teams, one of which, in the Flash Wolves, has the chance to remain undefeated at the end of the day.
Or we get 3 teams at 3-1, sitting for first place, and potentially a Fnatic getting closer later.
I like how you've always got the alternative
I'm
motive.
just going to say there's a game.
Always some goal here.
My brain would like, Fnatic will be 3-1, but that's obviously not the case if they win 2-2. So, ignore that one. Flash Wolves versus RNG.
All right, let's see how they decide to go about these picks and bans in order to find themselves some sort of an advantage here. Sion will be the first ban away by the Flash Wolves, while RNG decide they don't want anything to do with Graves this game.
Yeah, let's see what they follow this up with here, because there has been quite a lot of focus on the Trundle very clearly, as well as, Skarner, popping up here with the Olaf. So junglers are definitely going to be a very big part in this game, and neither of those bans have actually shown themselves yet.
Okay, earlier Vladimir ban as well. The 2 players who managed to pick up wins on Vladimir mid lane so far, it's Mabel and Xiaohu. During the tournament, both actually had good games on them when they showed up and carried with it. The Flash Wolves do not want to risk it being picked early by RNG, or maybe picked here on Xiaohu's position, and then they can ban away certain bad matchups for Vlad and just guarantee him a good setup in the mid lane.
Along with that Vladimir ban, we're also going to see Kha'Zix be that second ban over from the side of RNG, really focusing heavily on the carry junglers this time around. We saw Kingzone do the same thing against Evos. They want to take some of that jungle potential off the board as Kai'Sa will be the final ban from the Flash Wolves. We saw her last game, but we won't see her twice in a row.
So Rakan is still open, which of course opens up for the Zyra Rakan. We saw RNG play earlier today. Not anymore, now being banned away.
I would say Trundle is the most likely pick and the one that would jump first in your mind, but you know, you always keep it open a little bit for some sort of change in strategy.
And if it gets locked in, I've seen RNG still grab a tank against like Zach and say we don't care, but that was Kai'Sa playing, and this one is of course Mlxg who's on the field, so probably not the go-to option. The Skarner is there already. We've seen other junglers show up against Trundle, specifically like the Kindred was shown during play-ins, and we've seen the Hovered as well a few times, but most teams say we don't actually care about this Olaf versus Trundle thing. We can just trade them. They both are so good individually that the matchup itself is not too important.
Yeah, we'll probably revisit why Royal would never give up, banned out the Graves, and Kha'Zix here to give over the first pick Trundle, which would people have been doing anyways earlier in the tournament. Because Mlxg, in the end, just getting the Olaf. Yes, this is a champion that can invade early, can get out the early pressure, but you do have to start to worry later on about Trundle, using press the attack as well as the ultimate to really shred you down.
Plus, he's not just Olaf. He's Olaf with a Karma right next to him. That extra speed is going to make it so he can do his job much more effectively. But on the side of Flash Wolves, they're going to answer with some long range and rather elusive carries with the Ezreal and the Zoe.
Okay, of course the Karma already locked in, most likely going to the mid lane, but can still be swapped. Some teams, maybe they've prepared specific counters for Zoe. We saw Echo being played by BDD in the LCK against this specific champion. Some of these different assassin picks can actually work well against her, but you can also just pluck the Karma in mid lane and be happy with that.
Yeah, and early picking Zoe like that also kind of blocks out Ryze and Azir, those ones that don't like to get hit with the big burst damage and poke. There's the Kog'Maw though, which is something that Uzi has had, I feel like, a higher priority than a lot of the other AD carries here, and really demonstrated why that is true and shown the success already.
I mean, when we got to see RNG play versus Fnatic on day one, it was back and forth, and then Uzi with God's own living artillery just ends the game by finding them out and then applying the damage once the team fight rolled through. He knows how to play this champion, and just as importantly, his team knows how to funnel him the resources to be most effective.
Did they not ban anything? Yeah.
That may very well be the case.
Didn't ban anything.
That's probably why we're pulling out here.
Yeah, typically means that something went wrong in the pick and ban phase. Another thing though about this Kog'Maw pick for Uzi that I think is very important is, of course, Rage Blade first item. And then because of very long range damage coming with the W applied, it's actually fairly safe to have him sitting in mid lane once you set up the 1-3-1 after laning phase, and you poke very effective very quickly against the enemy AD carry, and it just buys a lot of time for the side lanes to push in.
Update on the delay that we're having right now. Flash Wolves apparently wanted to lock in Morgana as the ban there, but for some reason or another they were not able to do so, so that's being investigated and looked into right now. We'll see how that eventually plays out as we wait to get back into the lobby here again. But Morgana does seem like one of the kinds of champions you would want to keep away from your opponents, especially when they've already got the Kog'Maw and the Karma, preventing that sort of a Juggermaw lineup that just all focuses around protecting Uzi can be one of the ways to shut down this team that has just such an incredible player on that role.
And one of the best forms of protection actually is adding speed to the team. Olaf synergizes very well with the speed that Karma can provide, but also Uzi on this Kog'Maw can utilize that to get around these Trundle pillars, dodge the Zoe bubbles, kind of the only super scary thing so far that Flash Wolves have locked in.
We work our way now back into where we were in Champion Select, I believe. Bans are going through just the same. Picks should come through just the same here as well, up until the point that the ban was going to come through in, at which point Flash Wolves can hopefully lock in what they were aiming to, and we will proceed through the rest of Champion Select. Be up to that in just a moment here as you see the players just patiently waiting here on stage, ready to get back into this one. Don't want to lose too much of that momentum they were working towards, as it looks like the Morgana was actually... Okay, so the error apparently was that Morgana was supposed to be picked by RNG?
Yeah, so they wanted apparently to lock in the Morgana instead of the Kog'Maw on their side, and didn't manage to do it for whatever reason, and then instead ended up pulling out of the Champ Select. A little bit of confusion, but they now have two champions that can both go mid lane, can also go support, and funny enough, both champions can protect Uzi.
It is a really good point, too, because Xiaohu did just play the Morgana in mid lane in the LPL playoffs. So this is even more viability, even though most people assume that she would be going support.
And the thing is, though, when you have that kind of an error, when the Kog'Maw is shown last time around, now your opponents know, oh, I see what the plan was, and you can see that instantly coming through. First ban in phase 2 from the Flash Wolves, Kog'Maw.
You know what I would like to see then from Uzi?
What?
I'd like to see the Varus pick. I absolutely love it right now. I think you have insane CC setup if you put it with the Morgana in the bot lane. Ezreal can't really touch him that easily in the laning phase, and you can still get rage played. You can still control the mid lane once you get out of lane and you play the 1-3-1, and you can use it to force engages on these poke champions like Zoe and Ezreal.
Yeah, and even corral the front line. Like, you can hold down a Trundle very easily. Trundle, one of the only weaknesses that he has is that he doesn't have a dash, like most professional jungle champions, to get himself out of bad situations. So if you do have more of these forms of crowd control, you can keep him at arm's length and punish him a lot more sometimes.
There is also Vayne. I just want to mention it. When you see an Ezreal on the other side and there's a lot of protection, but sadly, it is Tristana learning from Reckless.
Still some hyper carry potential over there on the side of RNG, and I like their bans in phase 2. When you look at the Gangplank and the Soraka, they see the enemy team, see how it already has disengage tools in the form of Ezreal's kiting ability and the Pillar and Zoe's Trouble Bubble. They want to keep more of that away from Flash Wolves, but if we're talking disengage, few champions can do it as well as the Janna can, and right now that looks to be the choice here for the Flash Wolves.
Also, you have to pay very close attention to your lane matchups and the confidence of your laners when the Olaf is on the field. When that has been drafted by the enemy team, you'll always have to be thinking about the early game, about possible invades that are going to play off of your lane matchups.
But this Janna here is very specifically just for the laning phase for SwordArt, because if you look at her ulti in the late game, like that's an Olaf with his own ult pop that just runs you down, and then his 3 ranged champions that don't really care about Janna specifically and anything she can potentially interrupt. Ornn is also still available in this draft, which should just be the pick top lane for Letme. It's a great champ against Janna because she can't really disengage from this giant Ornn ulti.
We'll see if that's what RNG wants to go with here. That top lane will be their final pick, and it will go up against the Cho'Gath of Hanabi.
Okay.
They'll go with Maokai here instead, wanting plenty of engage, just not quite in the form of a giant lava ramp.
I'd probably take Ornn on my side, but RNG, different plan. Because Maokai is actually one of the champions that Janna can knock away, if it is.
Maokai is also one of those champions that you talked about how one of the
There
best
is,
ways
of course,
to
a long
protect
ult
teams
as well.
is the speed. But the Maokai benefiting from, I mean, you have the Twisted Advance, but it's such a low engage range, right? Well, Karma just makes him fast.
There's also the thing when a Zoe jumps forward, you can point and click onto her, and actually you can engage that way as a Maokai. So there is definitely reasons behind it. The point was, tank top lane that can force a team fight. The big Maokai ulti can also help there.
Yeah, I think that's the key there. You mentioned early on when the carries were picked very early with the Ezreal as well as the Zoe. Those are two kind of tricky carries to nail down, but Maokai is basically the most reliable frontline tank that you're going to have with the point and click, and the giant area will be covered by the ult.
So there's very, very strong late game team fight from Uzi on Tristana. Like, you don't pick that to dominate in the mid game. It is, crit build. It takes 3 items before you really start becoming the huge carry on your team. And he has double protection. It's Morgana support for Ming. It's Xiaohu and Karma at the mid lane. And then, of course, the front line with just a massive Maokai. So this should be one of the games with some big, big team fights from RNG.
Yeah, and even if you're mentioning the lane phase, with Tristana and the little bit of extra damage added to Rocket Jump, there's a Morgana in this lane. And, SwordArt on Janna down there with Betty's going to have to be careful about the positioning because there is a possibility of all-ins if one of those bindings does land. There's an Ignite on the Morgana. Tristana's very good at following up on those. And again, Olaf, early game presence is definitely a key. So there's a possibility of RNG trying to force on them, kill the Janna. One of the biggest things about those supports, why a lot of people, we haven't seen them, is because you gank them, you kill them, then you can try and snowball.
But of course, if nothing happens down there, then the Janna can be extremely useful against things like Morgana because her Black Shield, well, it only blocks the magic damage. Janna's Shield, of course, can block everything and add even more DPS for Betty specifically. Uzi will have to just hide behind the minions and avoid any sort of skill shots landing onto him. Let's see what happens here. They're sneaking into the brush from the bottom side.
Interesting opening strategy coming out here from the Flash Wolves, seeing if they can maybe find anything cheeky to do in that bottom lane, but they won't run into anyone from RNG here just yet. The ward placed down by Flash Wolves at the corner of their own Wraith Pit. We'll see exactly what Xiaohu's doing around here, walking back and forth, seeing maybe if they want to lay down some deeper vision as Maple just works his way back.
Yeah, you're always going to want to invade when you're the Olaf team here, facing the Trundle. Try and take over the early route priority. And they're going to go down to the red side here of Flash Wolves. Looks like he's going to make his choice between the Raptor camp start here. Binding could still land, by the way.
Yeah, there are 4 members in here. Now Xiaohu going back to his lane, but rest of RNG invading. Ward coming down to see what's going on. And meanwhile, top side Moojin is just starting blue buff. Doesn't want to deal with any shenanigans down here, and Betty gets a bit of poke in.
Again, though, if you split the map, RNG, whoa, a lot of damage taken here by Mlxg. That's going to make him have a lot more attack speed. But if they
speed, baby.
yeah, exactly. It's fine. You're just helping me attack quicker.
Ooh, that's really good.
Yeah, if you split the map like this, then bot, well, they're actually continuing here.
Just looking to go for this if they can. The binding not going to find its way on to Betty, as a lot of damage will come down onto Mlxg as he walks away.
Yeah, that's so much time wasted for Mlxg.
Yeah.
Their ward was placed there to just see him sitting in trap bush and walk down with the rest of RNG. A lot of extra poke coming in from Betty's side, and you've seen now Moojin already taking away a bunch of camps in the top lane.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a much simpler map split there from RNG, where they start to counter jungle all of the red quadrant, and then he transitions over to his blue side, thus meaning that Trundle would be sequestered up on the top side of the map for the entirety of the early game. There wouldn't be anything down there for him to farm. However, Mlxg, with an extremely inefficient backtracking route here, takes the red, runs down bottom.
Oh, they got level 2, they can all in.
Level 2, Ming in some trouble, trying to flash out of this one. He'll also use to make sure that support stays alive.
So Ming right there. Actually, let's see what happens here, because Mlxg, he's very low, but he's behind enemy lines.
Saw him too. Maple got eyeballs on him.
Mlxg
Hit him with the
has
gun.
the flash. He has the flash, but that's a full HP Maple. He's trying to get away from this when the Ignite is down, and First Blood with double buffs on the side over to Maple.
Completely ridiculous backtracking here for RNG, as you know, Mlxg, and this isn't more of the MLXD that everyone likes to meme about, but the red buff, revealing yourself twice, the check here from Maple, he definitely deserves credit, you know, going to find this, but you have to say, returning to the Raptors afterwards,
It's just so greedy. You're basically hoping the enemy mid laner will not check, or there's no ward possible that could have spotted you.
Yeah.
This is obviously just an easy kill.
you have to coordinate that with the Karma. You have to be like, okay, I've got the Zoe under turret, she's definitely going to be here. We can go back and try and right this, but all said and done, this is going to be a nice lead for Moojin on the Trundle, just skyrocketing in front of the Olaf.
And this is still one of the problems with Mlxg and his playstyle. If we just look at the last few years, there is a lot of risky plays being made. It felt like he realized he lost out in the early game by obviously having to go down to the bottom lane. The gank didn't really work for him, and then he wanted to try and get something back. Instead of just taking his camps, you know, the Crocs and the Grump, and then recall and accept that, yes, you didn't get the perfect start, he ends up actually giving over now, double buff plus a kill to Maple, who's been one of the best performing members on Flash Wolves during these last few days.
And we always talk about wanting to see these pedal to the metal plays and don't bother tapping the gas, don't bother tapping the brakes or anything like that. But sometimes you need the brakes. There's a reason they're there on the car, and for Mlxg, he's now finding himself cruising around in the slow lane behind Moojin.
All right, well, now he's in the brush and he gets the first axe.
Moojin trying to get away from this when the jump comes in. Black Shield also onto that 80 carry. Uzi walking himself back. The flash now down from Moojin. As you can see, Mlxg getting himself out, using the Predator to do so.
Yeah, that's going to be a decent cooldown early on in the game, but he's very happy about burning the flash off of Moojin by waiting in that brush. Meanwhile, mid lane, Maple feeling very good about the double buffs. Going to get a little help pushing, it looks like, from Moojin on the way out.
Maple picks up a redemption for himself there as well, so he can always use that to keep himself topped off as they push up here.
And of course, they have the Raptor timing because it was a very easy counter jungle there from Moojin because, you know, they saw Olaf very clearly on the bottom side, and Maple is going to help him continue on with the split.
Oh, this is early. He's only level 4 on the Olaf, but Xiaohu is on his way down. This is from him potentially, but the blast cone is obviously gone because Mlxg took that one. Xiaohu ends up going back towards the mid lane. Mlxg has to run back.
They've definitely been kind of flying by the seat of their pants here for RNG in this early game. You know, he doesn't go for the second Raptors, And that is going to be, again, more and more of a lead for Moojin on the Trundle. This is what you want in the Trundle-Olaf matchup from the Trundle side. He's going to be able to get up close to his level 6 and get his ultimate. And he already has a challenging smite to fight with.
And while we had all the pressure from Mlxg towards bottom side, Uzi still went back to base and only got a pickaxe for himself, so didn't get the full cash in with the BF sword. And he's of course doing fine in the laning phase. He will grab a bunch of minions here. And of course, Uzi can play laning phase very well, but when you are getting ganked level 2 and then right after there's a chance of another gank happening, it's very hard from Betty and SwordArt's side to actually control the lane. It gets a little bit crazy. Uzi will get enough farm for himself. Maple jumps forward.
And look at the stat comparison between these guys right now on the screen. You can see so far in groups, they're among the best in terms of AD carry performance. First and second in CSD at 15. First and second in terms of forward percentage, how aggressively they play the lane. And gold difference at 15. First and third, the only time where it's not one of these two being the top two.
And the worst part, if you're sitting number 1 and number 2 in CSD at 15, it's gonna get ruined for one of you, sadly. Or maybe both, if there's actually no change at all. Your numbers will drop down a little bit, but you are in the bot lane. It's Uzi and Ming trying to once again push in.
I'm so curious what's going to happen on the second red spawn here, because Moojin has the timer, because they split the map. Mlxg's trying to grab it before he gets there, but again, he's down a level.
So dangerous to be in this spot if you're Mlxg, especially with the Zoe coming up. The Sleepy Trouble Bubble could spell your demise without the Ragnarok to get you away from the CC. Redemption being called down there as the red buff is chomped away, and Flash Wolves do a good job securing the second.
Very good setup here. Hanabi pushed in top, he moved down first. In case a fight would happen, he's there with the feast. Secure the red buff. RNG are looking towards something on bottom side, but it's just going to be Mlxg starting the blue. Flash Wolves feeling control still.
And honestly, they are. They're 1,500 gold up. They've got the only kill so far in the game. No objectives, turret or neutral objectives taken yet. First Drake is Ocean, so we likely won't see a ton of priority on that here too early, as Flash Wolves will clear out some wards there in that bottom part of the map, also grabbing the Scuttle Crab for themselves, keeping SwordArt and Betty that much safer as they continue to push up here.
Yeah, we continue to look at the pushing lanes and where we're going to see Trundle get more and more offensive. They're able to get the Scuttle Crab for themselves, a lot of vision in the river. Moojin has plenty of camps to retreat to, whereas Mlxg here on the Olaf still not level 6. Not a lot of options, but he might head to the top side. That'd be one of the few. He would definitely want to grab his Raptor camp, but a Maokai does have crowd control to try and set him up. And if he gets level 6 off the Raptor camp, then there's a possibility of trying to track the Cho down instead.
Hopefully should get it here. He doesn't have that much more EXP to go, and there we go. Level 6 for Mlxg. Ragnarok now online means he'll be that much scarier, but like you said, how can he use it? Where's the opportunity?
Like I said, Maokai would probably be the best setup, but even then, Hanabi does have some, exit paths. You can put the Rupture on yourself, try and get some knockups, and then
or just buy enough time, maybe a potential counter gank come in, and then suddenly you turn it around and Mlxg fall further behind. Flash was, though, they're very happy playing bottom side. This is how they've been winning almost all their games back in the LMS. Betty has been performing very well during this tournament, and of course back in the LMS as well, where he's considered the best AD carry now.
Both junglers hanging around this bottom side of the map. RNG did spot Moojin out on a ward, so Mlxg wanted to make sure he was in position for that. Sleepy Trouble Bubble finds its way onto that Karma. Pillar comes down, Ignite goes through. Xiaohu with the fast flash, getting himself away in time, but still loses quite a lot of health.
Yeah, and mid priority, because you chunked him out, means everything. That means that Flash Wolves get to take control of Dragon. They move first down here. And looks to use the Blast Cone, though, and he's looking to take advantage.
Xiaohu's TP is ready in case Mlxg is forcing some sort of fight down here. He can instantly join on the Karma for now.
He doesn't have vision on the health of the Dragon.
We will check. We will find Moojin in there.
Moojin rather low on mana right now, throws down the pillar, wanting to get himself away. Moojin,
the Dragon.
The smooth criminal, getting himself back into the pit, but he's dumped before he can do anything about the Drake. Mlxg waiting for the smite, doesn't have it, so Maple takes the Drake.
Yeah, he used his smite there on the chase of the Trundle, so Moojin thought to go back into the pit. We're still fighting though. Uzi taking damage.
Uzi getting himself over the wall with the rocket jump, doesn't have much to worry about right now. But that was oh so close on that Drake.
Oh, Mlxg maybe chasing. Nope, nothing else here. Moojin definitely did not want to flash back into the dragon. He wanted to go to the other side of that little wall.
I thought he was going to have his smite ready and he was going to have the 300 IQ get back in there and use his smite on the dragon. But look at the cooldown here. I don't know if that.
Where did he go?
I don't know if that's reliable. But look at the cooldown. If that is reliable, sometimes the visuals aren't quite right on the replay. But if that was reliable, it was very close to being the play. So
now we talked about how the AD carries were sitting at the tops of the charts, the stats so far in MSI. Well, forget the tops with an S, just the pure top of everything right now. Maple so far in this group stage, 37. KDA, 636 damage per minute, a third of his team's total damage. The man is a monster.
Yeah, and this makes me so happy because it actually reminds me of MSI 2 years ago. When we played in Shanghai, we had Maple, and he was sitting as #1 in terms of all the numbers for mid laners. He was just going completely crazy in every single game he played. But last year, it was just not the same story for him. He was not able to execute mechanically in a lot of these fights. He fell behind in his laning phase, and he was just not the same player. But this year, he's kind of found his form again, and he's become one of the big names on Flash Wolves that you always have to look at when it comes to who can carry the game.
Yeah, he's doing everything. Here we go, though. Xiaohu does roam up to the top side.
Gonna be in some trouble here. Already spent the flash, and it's 1 versus 3. That Cho'Gath is not long for this world as RNG collapse and take him down. Counter gank not going to be there in time as Moojin has to walk away from the evil Christmas tree roots.
Got to gank in the top lane, Kobe.
Yeah.
Wasn't just him, Mlxg.
Exactly. Xiaohu's taken matters into his own hands, roams up there with the Karma, and they do find themselves a kill. But again, Flash Wolves feel pretty good about the way this early game's going.
Oh, Ming, he might get jumped.
Losing quite a lot of HP there just from that initial blast from Betty. True shot barrage flashed away from.
Like it forced the flash. Ming, of course, knew he could always dodge it, but still getting a big summoner. Still though with RNG, they did wait until a Drake had been taken already before they went topside. They didn't want to give away any free objectives. Down the bottom lane though, while Uzi is staying even in CS. He's been under pressure in some of these small fights near the river. But as long as he's farming, as long as he gets ahead, later on in the game, it's enough. A lot of damage.
Half HP through a shield. Zoe, by the way.
Maple looking so good in this game. He was able to check for the kind of return route of Mlxg early on, getting that double buff and that giving him so much mid priority. Then he's also able to finish off the dragon and grab the Ocean Drake for Flash Wolves after Moojin went down. Also roaming around now to the bottom side. A little bit late though, as RNG have already secured their blue.
RNG with that blue on their mid laner means they're in a spot to defend against this aggression coming out from the Flash Wolves here yet again. Betty will get himself back over the wall. They decide without the blue buff to fight for, there's not much of a reason to hang around.
But we keep seeing just like the Flash Wolves bot lane pushing to the turret, and whenever they're near the turret, Maple and Moojin, they're ready to move down to the bottom side just in case RNG TPs in and a fight happens, because then they know they can defend this Ezreal, who's super important for the mid game. It's always the big thing, Ezreal versus crit AD carries, is the mid game when you have 2 items, tier fully stacked and a Trinity Force, you're just so much stronger and you can force plays. So they want this bot lane turret, they want Betty to get ahead in this game, and then just use the next 5 to 6 minutes on trying to snowball the game before Uzi can just sit and pick up more farm.
Little difference at 15 so far in the group stage. You can see there on your screen, plus 3,000 for the Flash Wolves. As this game, they're only sitting at about 700 up over RNG. Still a lead, but nothing to write home about. More defense coming in from the RNG side. Xiaohu setting up shop down here now. Seems like he's spending a lot of time helping this bottom lane defend because they realize Flash Wolves are investing plenty of resources of their own down here.
And Flash Wolves has a very good 4-man siege. Trundle Pillar makes it very difficult to dodge Ezreal Qs coming out and spells from Zoe as well. So with an Ocean Drake, Flash Wolves can easily siege up and return to these sieges and constantly keep pressure on RNG, kind of forcing RNG to squirm a little bit and feel the pressure of creating the play.
People effortlessly clearing out these waves as well, as Uzi will now be put here in the mid lane. But wow, what a lot of damage. That was with no bubble.
Get out of the mid lane, Uzi. We might get a fight, or Flash will just at least force them away. This bot lane turret is so low at this point here. They just want to secure it, then send the Ezreal back and spend all the gold. It's a great position for Flash Wolves to be in.
Remember, their AD
There
carry
they go.
is injured.
And this time-
Mlxg and Xiaohu coming around. Moojin trying to get himself away from this one. Goes ahead, drops the subjugate, keeps himself healthy. And now it's actually a very weak Mlxg having to run himself away from this one, down to about 1/3 health.
But very important that FLICKR managed to disengage it, because this was the first time Mabel was still in the mid lane by the time they were actually getting to the turret. Luckily for them, nothing happened. RNG gets to step away themselves, but they will lose a turret for it.
Again, the pressure takes its toll. Uzi was so low that he was not a part of that aggressive move. Even though they had 4 members technically there, Uzi was recalling at the tower because he was chunked so low on the Tristana. And Olaf, as a champion, works so much off of pressure and trying to run at the end and force your opponents to run away. If they can stand and fight in even terms, you immediately have to turn around. And that's why it's so scary for an Olaf not to have such a big early advantage.
And we have now seen in the previous games and back in the LPL, like RNG play a lot of these like split push 1-3-1 comps where Xiaohu can be in a side lane and be very strong, and someone like Letme or Zietai, who of course is not here for the team, can sit in the other side lane and try and pressure a little bit and set up a potential gango play with Xiaohu and the top laner. But that's going to be very hard in this game. Like, it's a Maokai, who's not going to bring a lot of damage, and then it's a Karma coming up there. It doesn't really function for RNG then, so it's going to have to be them just grouping as 5 as much as possible and protecting Uzi no matter what. But before that really is going to be effective, then this Tristana needs more items, and that's going to slow down the game a lot for RNG.
And I want to harken back to what we mentioned earlier, talking about the CSD at 15 numbers, how when you have the best 2 going against each other, somebody's is going to be ruined. And right now, it's Uzi who's falling behind in farm when you compare him to Betty, to how much he's farmed up already. 167 here on this Ezreal, doing a great job keeping that economy topped off.
This is FlashWolves' time to dictate how this game goes. They've got the 2-item Ezreal with a Janna right next to him and the regeneration of an Ocean Drake. Once again, just siege up, throw out your Qs, even have Trundle pass by, throw the pillar down so you can land more of your skill shots and just continually slowly gain advantages or quickly gain advantages by hitting all your skill shots.
Speaking of those skill shots, that's how you dial them in. I've seen so many Zoes hit bubbles into missiles, but Maple Zoe doesn't even need the bubble first. He throws the missile out and finds the damage anyway again. 3 times now we've seen it very recently as the push continues. Important members chunk low on the side of RNG.
We're also just seeing how hard it is for RNG to kill the wave fast enough. Like, Karma will just hit a bunch of the minions, but not the entire wave, and instantly one-shot them. Uzi doesn't have static shift yet on his side to try and assist either, so it's very easy for FlashWolves whenever a wave hits the turret to actually hit or shoot multiple skill shots. It's not just 1 round, it's 2 and 3 rounds.
Yeah, it's been quite a while since, team compositions that revolve around sieging and poke were so popular and so effective, but especially because they, got that early start. Definitely something gained by FlashWolves. Here, though, something gained by RNG as Mlxg tries to run to get themselves an Ocean Drake to match.
And to grab a little bit of that sustain to keep them in a safer spot against some of the poke coming through, but the bubble and the barrage will not find their way onto the Drake in time. RNG get themselves that, but they're still down 3,500 gold. 19 minutes into the game. That is no small amount.
Yeah, a lot of that, again, is because of the extra turrets here. FlashWolves have been able to get, they got the bonus gold on the first one, number 2 in mid lane already knocked down, and they can continue to keep up that pressure, try and moving your ward line a little bit.
We talked earlier about how it was important that Flash was in the mid game, really started getting down turrets and actually being able to get more control of the map. Makes it harder for Uzi and the rest of RNG to safely pick up farm because there's always a bubble flying over the wall, potentially landing and killing you. So now with them killing those 2 turrets, they have the Rift Hill. They can easily get the top lane turret as well because they have a far superior AD carry at this point in the game and a lot more damage from Mabel. It then sets up very nicely for that Baron, which is spawning soon, with the Cho'Gath Feast on your side as well and a Trundle who can sit and tank it. So they have so many tools to just in the next few minutes take all the outer turrets and then actually start playing around Baron itself and probably secure it very early.
Yeah, you can already see RNG getting a little bit antsy, some wards going down around the Baron because they know the threat is so real of FlashWolves taking it either with Cho'Gath or just sitting around and using the Fog Ward to draw them to this dangerous area where bubbles are flying at you and all the skill shots start to come out.
And I like what we're seeing right now from FlashWolves. They know they're ahead. They know they're in that driver's seat, so they're pushing up into enemy territory. All these wards going down, just looking to utilize the power of those bubbles over the wall that you were talking about that make picks so easy.
We get that quick burst build as well from Mabel. Luden's Echo, and then he's gonna get a Lich Bane, so when he jumps over and also gets to just auto onto a target, like it's so much damage so quickly, it's gonna be really hard for RNG to actually avoid getting poked down. And the moment you get poked low, either will die immediately after or you're forced back to base, and then the Baron is suddenly an option. Now it's gonna be that top lane turret with the Rift Tail, as we just talked about, and it's all of Flash Wolves members here.
Shelly summoned up. The banner minion will try to defend for now, but it will be taken down. There comes the smite. Moojin's got no patience for this as the Flash Wolves move on to the tier 1 turret. They get it with the help of the Herald, and it looks like they'll just decide to back away after that one. Turret goes down. That's all she wrote.
Yeah, attempt at a counterplay here from RNG in the mid lane, but teleport was used by Maple, and Betty's here fighting.
Betty taken pretty low on that one. Maple continuing to follow up on this. Does go for the Sleepy Trouble Bubble, but Black Shield onto Uzi's going to make sure that does not succeed. Maple continues looking for some damage, takes some of his own instead. Enchanted Inner Flame going to make sure of that as the push will still keep going topside until Letme moves into place to stop.
Life sucks for Letme. He can't push a lane properly. He just wants to push it out and then go join his team to actually help them if they need to force any sort of engage around a Baron or if Flash Wolves are currently sieging. But for now, at least he gets a bit of time. It is Flash Wolves been on the map for quite a while, been making plays, securing top tier. They need to go back, spend all the gold, kind of reset the whole thing. But they are still in full control on this side. Uzi still not sitting on eye edge.
Uzi not where he wants to be as the man who all so often ends up being the one that the rest of the team's hopes and dreams are on the back of. This is the carry. This is the guy the composition is built around. This is the one that they're just waiting for him to come online while their opponents, you can see, look at the itemization of Betty. You've got the Muramana completely built and transformed. The second tier is stacking. And although you mentioned earlier, Deficio, Ezreal, so strong when he has the couple of items. Once he has the Muramana and the Trinity Force, the mid game normally being his spike, the double tier build enables that champion to transition so well into a late game damage game.
Yeah, Flash Wolves aren't really feeling the clock quite yet because they have been able to keep the CS away from Uzi. This is by far, the lowest CS that he has had per minute, especially here at MSI, under even the 10-minute or the 10 per minute mark that we usually associate with kind of the standard.
And I love the fact that 10 per minute is normally
the old
really
standard,
good.
actually.
It's really good if you look at it in an objective case. Like, you're never going to see that in any of your solo queue games, and sometimes even in pro play you don't see it. But for Uzi, it's just like, wow, only 10 per minute. That's really low compared to what you normally get from this guy. But it is still the reality. It is still where RNG is right now in this game. Still 5,000 gold behind us. They will be able to pass their red buff off to that AD carry.
And what I want to see now is Cho'Gath put the banner down bot side, feast the enemy banner minion, and then you guarantee the push, and you can just walk up to join your team if you want to start making a play around Baron, because the cooldown on feast is very low at this point from, so it's going to be ready fairly soon, and the Maokai just struggles to deal with the banner command minion himself. There we go from his side, and Letme is already on cooldown. I actually just going back to see if Hanabi just decided to feast it. Probably did.
Meanwhile, mid lane we have a collapse from RNG.
Betty in some trouble. The CC comes down. The damage goes through. Goodbye, Betty. Uzi grabs himself kill number 1 of this game.
Righteous Glory and Flash used from Letme to force this one, but they were able to take down the AD carry. So finally, RNG have some breathing room to actually work with.
And that was a very small window. Before Hanabi had started his push with the banner, Letme just walks into mid lane. It's not communicated properly by Flash Wolves, and then suddenly, despite it being an Ezreal with Flash, they actually managed to surprise, and that's where the Maokai pick, of course, can be extremely valuable. But that little window should have been communicated by Flash Wolves, and it should not have allowed RNG to get a kill.
Yeah, the reliability that we kind of talked about in Champ Select of Maokai and the hard engage point and click is on demonstration right there in the mid lane.
With the TP though, Flash Wolves can still go to Baron and at least force Letme to react. If you can get him to TP over and you then disengage, that's the TP gone, and your Cho'Gath gets full control of the bottom side, and RNG, they will start struggling a bit, have to put Xiaohu suddenly to defend, but Flash Wolves are slowing down again on their side. It is only 24 minutes in, so we can't really blame them just yet.
Well, I actually...
There we go, I like this.
I would have, taken up the Infernal Drake really quickly first, but they are burning the Baron right now, trying to force a check from RNG.
It's a rather slow burn. Baron's health not going down anytime soon. Flash Wolves wisely not popping those wards. They're making sure that they're getting as much as they can out of this. The control ward over the wall now, going to be teleported onto. Flash Wolves should be forced away. Baron to about half HP, but the TP is canceled.
And this is exactly what they wanted. they knew it was going to be risky to just rush it down. There might be a giant team fight, but they get the TP from the Maokai. So now they can actually reset again, go back, push another minion wave. And you can at any point with your double TP, start a new Baron. Xiaohu, if he's not the one defending bot side, then Letme's never going to move in time, and you're going to be 5v4.
Even before that, they're going to be able to get a lot of damage on this turret. Their banner is ready and already firing, so they get turret gold after that as well.
4 turrets to 1 now for the Flash Wolves, dominating in the objective game over RNG, taking more map control as they go. That just opens up more and more avenues for them to get into the enemy jungle, set down those wards, and be that much more mindful of what RNG's next step is going to be.
And in addition, Maple found another teleport in the balloon minion, I believe, there, or actually got it out of the other one. And he was able to use Letme's get down to the bottom side.
Here we
now
go.
They're coming back.
Now they say, all right, Maokai can't TP into this. He's pretty far away. We're going to start the Baron up yet again, but they'll back off.
Oh, and this is where you sometimes from pro teams, you see a bit of impatience. They can actually just go back, set the entire map up again with all control on bottom side from the Cho'Gath, wait 1 or 2 minutes, and then go back to this Baron. But because they see RNG at the Infernal Drake, they're like, let's rush it. They might all 5 be at the Drake. They just don't have the damage to kill it fast enough to actually do that, and they end up now giving over a Drake to RNG. And RNG gets a bit more time where Letme's TP will now fairly soon be ready again.
RNG makes the best out of the situation, getting that extra damage for Uzi, who we were talking earlier about how, oh, he doesn't even have the Infinity Edge yet. He's fallen a little bit behind, but you're at that 3-item spike on Tristana. You're at that point we always reference where your damage becomes a legitimate team fight threat.
All right, will they be able to pull that to victory, though? Because it's still going to be so difficult for them. No flash on Letme for the Maokai to get all the way back to lock down one of those carries. So he's going to have to get a little bit more creative, and that becomes difficult when Flash Wolves have such good vision control around the Baron area.
May not have the flash, but he does have the karma. He does have the righteous glory. There's still avenues to make this work.
They just used the banner in the mid lane trying to siege again, but that's where Uzi is sitting. He can kill this banner very, very quickly. It's on the side lanes where there's the 2 AP champions that struggle to deal with it. They can actually, well, just have to see it push in. Xiaohu already pushed the bottom lane. Banner is still alive, but it's gonna die now. And Flash Wolves, they're trying to force mid. They look like a team who wants to go towards Baron, but RNG, they're around. They should be ready to fight.
Ming's been doing a good job with these black shields here too, trying to protect Uzi from either the impact of the trouble bubble or, if nothing else, the sleep component afterwards. Moojin throwing down the pillar, trying to keep his opponents away. Baron is down to about 2/3 HP. RNG have no vision on the pit. They don't know what the health looks like. They don't even know that Flash Wolves are on
not
it.
even gonna check
RNG
it.
are going to end up giving this away for free. It's taken down to 1,000 HP just as the sapling goes over the wall and the beast secures it. Flash Wolves get it clean.
I mean, it's a difficult situation to be in, but RNG now going to be in a worse position as the Baroned up siege power is going to come through. And again, they still have such an easy time here with Trundle Pillar kind of taking away a lot of the extra room you have to dodge with the skill shots coming through. So you have to have your eyes on Letme, on the Maokai. When he goes Righteous Glory and Flash, they're going to have to kill that target. And it's going to have to be Betty or Maple that they get with it.
And one thing I want to point out as well, both these champions, these frontliners on the side of RNG, Olaf and Maokai, get so much out of healing. Executioner's calling on Betty means that's going to be shut down.
I'd like to see that, but before here, Flash was ended up getting the Baron when RNG, they were actually all around. I just went back and checked. Xiaohu's blue trinket was ready for 10 seconds where he didn't use it. And then he decided to use it much, much later, just when the Baron died. And RNG just ended up not respecting the fact that Flash Wolves could have started a 2 to 3 man Baron, and they maybe got a little bit too scared of Zoe. So that suddenly is a huge play for the Flash Wolves.
Yeah, again, it's such a difficult situation to be in, but now what do you do? Because the Baroned up siege is going to take effect. Zoe still can throw bubbles here.
We'll see how much the mistake cost them. It's already going to be a tier 2 that drops right now. Turret destroyed by the side of Flash Wolves makes that total a number 5. The trouble bubble is barely stepped out of the way by Uzi. Flash Wolves continuing to push here in the bottom lane. Letme taking a chunk of damage, knocked up into the air by the Rupture. Banner Minion continuing to fire with the Baron buff from the safety of its range. Means Flash Wolves is comfortably laying siege to this base. They take down inhibitor turret number 1. Moving now onto the inhibitor itself.
Uzi's taking pot shots from the side and getting a couple of chunks down, but now actually they force Maokai in there.
Hanabi trying to get himself away, Letme into the back line, but he's all alone. He's isolated, having to flash out. He can't quite do what he wants to do. Instead, get taken down. Maple grabs that kill there for himself. Xiaohu trying to get himself away, but it's Betty who grabs the kill now onto Mlxg as Uzi retreats with the remaining members of this team. Flash Wolves want to push to find the win right here. Baron buff enchant on the minion wave. Nexus turret number 1 taken down. Nexus turret number 2 will swiftly be the target. Uzi shielded up, but where's the damage? What can he do? Nexus exposed. Betty off to the side, wanting to take this one down. Uzi looking to win. Can he find the damage? Flash Wolves win!
4-0 for Flash Wolves. They remain undefeated here at MSI. What an opening for them.
And they controlled this game here. They knew exactly what they wanted to do in the early game, and they start setting up, killing the turrets, and it was all about Baron.
They control this group stage here, Deficio. Highest record in the entire set. And congratulations, well-deserved victory.
One of the teams that found their way here fighting through that last part of the play-ins. Remember that this team had to go through that extra step to earn their spot here in the MSI group stages, and they're the ones, not Kingzone, not RNG, not Liquid, not Fnatic, not Evos, not anyone. These are the ones with no defeats still on the record.
And they're playing so well. Like, you look at the LMS region and it's just dominated by the Flash Wolves, so it feels like they're gonna enter an international tournament not being too strong, but they're currently just beating everyone left and right. And this game here, like, they showed full understanding of how to snowball with the Ezreal and then playing around the Baron. It looked like it was going a little bit too long. Uzi had gotten his items. It felt like, okay, now RNG maybe can fight. But then they started with 2 members, and RNG just like, well, I guess they're not doing it, and just kept waiting around. And the moment they got it, they just won the game.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of think that's the only way that RNG could get in is, oh yeah, Uzi needs to get some more items and stuff, but as he gets more items, there's also a tank shredding Trundle on one side,
yeah.
And it's very hard to get back to these carries. The Janna pick for SwordArt worked out so well when we're so used to seeing them like, SwordArt is a playmaker. They're gonna play around him, you know, with hard CC champion, he's gonna create all these openings for the team. He was like, you know what? We're just gonna go with the Janna, some siege, keep on shielding, slowly wear away at the bottom turret, and delay, you know, Uzi's income and delay those crit items from building up.
And while it is about playing towards the bottom lane, Mabel specifically in the mid lane, like, he's doing so well this tournament, and it's so great to see, like, the Zoe pick. He only got 2 kills, but there was barely any kills in the game for him to get. It was just all about constant poke pressure, and he kept forcing Uzi away from the lanes, you know, deny some of the farm and just keep RNG down.
Now, he only got 2 kills, but he also got a lot of health bars down to about that much.
So that counts as a kill, basically.
Yeah, it pretty much counts as a kill anyway. I mean, I don't want to jump to any conclusions or anything, boys, but
yes,
I just want to say
best team in the world.
that the LMS is one of the only regions not named Korea to have won Worlds before. And they're putting on an international performance here so far. We'll have to see if it can continue, but now we're going to head over to the State Farm analyst desk for more on that game.
Thank you very much, Captain Flowers. A 4-0 Flash Wolves taking down RNG. I feel like essentially any and all preconceived notions of this tournament are being thrown out the window here with the performance put together by the LMS squad.
Also, Fnatic has won Worlds, by the way. We're talking about other regions winning Worlds.
He's won.
We are in Europe, so
don't forget.
Don't get the lynch mob together. We have to clarify that right off the bat. But yeah, man, this game definitely defied expectations for me.
Right.
The first win the LMS has ever had against the LPL at MSI, moving that record to 1-8.
As well as the first of the 2 tests that you claimed LMS has here, the Flash Wolves have to kind of prove themselves in the group stages here at MSI. Kingzone still to be played against tomorrow. But Papa Smithy, how do you feel about the Flash Wolves here sitting undefeated?
At the end of the day, I think they're putting their faith in the right picks. If you go to picks and bans in this game, the Ezreal priority was, I think, the thing that separated the 2 teams. Again, we're seeing teams kind of leave the Ezreal open, thinking they can go for a plan. This was the karma. This was the double support. That was the emphasis from RNG in the first round.
gonna take off the kid gloves. This is one of those RNG drafts where I look at it, I'm like, what the hell? Like, come on, where's the meta priority here? You just got smacked by Ezreal when Kingzone picked it up. You had the opportunity to grab it in game number 2. It was a Trundle priority, and then it was Karma Olaf. Why not grab Karma Ezreal right there? One of the best picks against a Trundle is some sort of kiting champion. It's a lot of times why we see the Graves being picked into the Trundle, the ability to skirmish him, to kite around. You don't need to grab the Olaf there, and so it tells me that Morgana was the higher priority there. Because they could have also then, tried to slip in, move the Olaf pick there, but they wanted the Tristana Morgana bot lane, thinking that it would be enough, and it just wasn't. And I'm just tired of seeing it repeatedly from RNG. They do this all the time.
So not happy with the draft phase coming out of RNG, but that's not to say that the game couldn't be won, and that's where we have to look at the execution of the picks, the players that are piloting these champions, and we're going to turn a critical eye here to Mlxg and the way that he performed on that Olaf in this game.
Mlxg.
D. A, B, C, D. Oh, D.
And to Frog's point, the reason you pick the Olaf early, because it's going to get outscaled by the Trundle, is so you can get a tempo advantage early. You see them invading the red buff, but then why try the gank? They saw you invading the red buff, get it going early. He then tries a very late Raptors and just gets killed by Maple. So this had so many future effects on the game. It means that Olaf no longer has the tempo advantage on the Trundle. It means Maple gets lane priority over the Karma. That means Karma can't come down bottom to punish the shoving Ezreal and Janna. So to me, the draft made sense logically for RNG. But as soon as that happened, as soon as Mlxg did that, it fell apart.
Right.
Even the Maokai pick? You're even like, okay with the Maokai pick?
I do not agree with as much.
Thank you.
Especially against Cho'Gath Trundle, but that's a whole other
I think you hit something really crucial there, too. What that enabled Maple to do, and we have to give credit to Maple for taking that kill and extending the advantage to an exemplary degree, piloting this Zoe to such an extent that even without the Sleepy Trouble bubbles, just paddle starring people to death left and right. But Papa Smithy, I think if we are going to look at Flash Wolves and something that they can clean up moving forward, we still have some questions around their macro play, especially in that mid to late game, and how they're taking maybe a 4K advantage and ultimately closing out the game.
Yeah, it was very tenuous until they made an excellent Baron setup. We should definitely credit them for that. Kind of my biggest takeaway, because we were left thinking both about the Maokai pick and about the Janna pick, because the Janna pick didn't necessarily seem like it was going to disengage. To me, this tournament, which has been so up in the air, it feels like the predictions have really started to fall away. It's kind of the 1-2 punch of Flash Wolves did have very strong siege. If they got through the early game, it seemed like the Olaf would kind of be the tempo setter. When the Olaf falls away and the siege falls into place, which Janna, of course, is huge in contributing to, that's where I felt like RNG were largely powerless. And even though Flash Wolves weren't killing the game instantly, it always felt like they were one good macro move away from closing it.
And I think, we have to remind ourselves of those pre-tournament expectations. A lot of the power rankings across the world had Flash Wolves maybe sitting in that 5th position, maybe competing for a 4th slot and barely getting out of groups. And here they sit atop the table at 4-0, ultimately decimating the competition.
I mean, domestically, a lot of the LMS experts will talk about how you have a lot more Korean imports getting injected into the scene. The mid-tier teams start to rise up, so it's not necessarily as top-heavy of a region as it used to be. That said, going back, watching the G-Rex Flash Wolves final, there's a lot of questionable things that happens in that game. There's people dying to Rift Heralds, there's people almost dying to Krugs, and so it's just, we say this all the time, it is so hard to separate Flash Wolves' domestic performance to their international performance, but it is so easy to look at Maple, put a magnifying glass on the fact that he really stepped up this split versus 2017, and Papa, I mean, you said it.
Best player of the tournament so far.
Exactly.
Wow, big words there. Maple, the best player of the tournament so far. Flash Wolves, the best team of the tournament so far. We've got an EU and NA clash to close out the day as Fnatic and Team Liquid face off after the break. Don't go anywhere.
He has the flash, but that's a full HP Maple. He's trying to get away from this when the Ignite is down, and First Blood with double buffs on the side. He's isolated, having to flash out. He can't quite do what he wants to do, instead get taken down. Maple grabs that kill there for himself. Xiaohu trying to get himself away, but it's Betty. What can he do? Nexus exposed. Betty off the side, wanting to take this one down. Uzi looking away, can't find the damage. Flash Wolves win!